Sometimes life gives you lemons, sometimes it gives you an ice cold Coke Zero. January of last year, 2022, we embarked on a new project for a customer. Their Land Rover Defender 90 had a 12J diesel engine, and that sucker was completely knackered. So they decided to upgrade it to a turbo diesel and an automatic ZF 4HP22 transmission and throw in air conditioning on top of it. Nothing about this project ended up being easy. As soon as the engine and transmission were removed, we noticed that there was some major rust in the chassis behind where the transmission cross member or mount bolts up to the chassis. The transmission's here. All the way from the jolly old UK. Look at that beautiful bad boy. All the way from England. It is far away. It only took 10 years to get here. It took a lot longer than it should have. Special speedy delivery from England. From Ashcroft. Would you look at that? It's in Bedfordshire. Look at that. Good old Bedfordshire. Good old Bedfordshire. Hey, there's the brand spanking new torque converter. What ended up happening with this particular project? The first transmission, we actually purchased it used from a Land Rover Discovery 1 300 TDI that had, I believe, 120,000 miles on the clock, if that. It was down near Cornwall. To make things a little quicker, we had a couple of other Land Rovers that we were getting ready to put on the boat. Put the 4HP22 in the back. Got here about a month later, got everything cleaned up, got it installed with the 200 TDI. It ended up getting smoked. Those that aren't familiar with how the 4HP22 mates up to the torque converter, the pump inside the 4HP22, it's right at the base of the shaft. So just basically a couple gears in there that keep the fluid moving. And that transmission pump works. It's got little feet, and the torque converter slides in and locks into those feet. So as the motor's turning, the torque converter, which is attached to the flex plate, as the motor's turning, it's turning that pump. What had happened was it wasn't where it was supposed to be, and so once everything was fully assembled, the motor, as it began turning, was just destroying and ripping those prongs off of the pump. Once that happens, those prongs become mincemeat, and if the engine continues to run, it just goes through the rest of the transmission. So all of the clutch plates. We're not a transmission shop. It's not really our bag. Fast forward, I don't know, a month, we finally sourced another transmission, this time one that we found off of eBay in England. It had all been rebuilt by Ashcroft Transmissions out of the UK. They do a fantastic stand-up job. We actually had this one shipped through DHL air freight, so it only took maybe a couple weeks to get here. We got it installed, same damn thing all over again. Pump destroyed. Come to find out, for some bloody reason, even Ashcroft couldn't quite figure this out. There's spacers, there's shims that go on the flex plate for some bloody reason, and nobody was able to help us figure this out. We needed an extra set of shims. We had too much space. You've got your transmission here, you've got the torque converter that's sat in those prongs. That's the most important thing, is you set the torque converter first. Easiest way to do it is you have your transmission right side up, so the output shaft, the rear output shaft, is basically on the floor. The front of the transmission's facing up, and you drop your torque converter in, and you just, it's like there's like 2 or 3 sections where you rotate, it drops, you rotate it again, and it drops. The final descent is it locking into those feet in the transmission pump. That's the final descent. Once you're there, you're golden. Once that's done, then you can deliver up the transmission to the engine. get it all mounted. So what was happening is once the transmission was mounted and upon then bolting the torque converter to the flex plate, the torque converter was being pulled out of the pump 7 to 8 millimeters. At that point, you kind of have to assume that everything's good because we've done this so many other times on Disco 1s, Disco 2s with a V8. You fire the engine up, nobody's home. And once you fire that engine up, because that torque converter isn't locked into those feet, guess what happens? It just annihilates them. So then you've got a pump that's destroyed. And again, depending on how long you run that motor, all that shit is going downstream to the rest of the transmission. Some of it's even going into the torque converter. Then we've got 2 transmissions shot. We finally find a place that can test them. All right, they've got a transmission gearbox dyno, and they offer the service for free, which is pretty dang cool. So we deliver the gearboxes and the torque converters. They test everything. Find out we've got 2 bad torque converters, and one of the gearboxes is still good. But we still can't figure out why the hell we're pulling off of the spindle. Why are we pulling off and pulling out from the pump? So there's the torque converter. She's in all the way. There's the buttress. Got 1 bolt through it just for testing purposes. And got that sitting on the front of the torque converter. Here's the top hat. Here's the 1.5 mil shim. Okay, so we've got buttress, flywheel, top hat, shim. And now we're gonna put this on. At this point, that's the gap we've got. 7 mil between the shim and the back of the plate. Three of the smaller ones and 3 of the bigger ones. Let's hope today's a good day. Except we're probably gonna need bigger bolts now. They're not supposed to be there. I don't know what we did wrong. We still don't know. But the only thing we ended up doing right was we got another brand new gearbox from Ashcroft Transmission, another brand spanking new torque converter, and a box of shims. We put the shims on, not just the ones that came stock, but a couple of new ones. Measured the millimeter spacing after we put the extra shims on, and praise the Lord, we finally had it working. We ended up still having some issues because I don't even know how many pumps we burned out. Like, all of this transpired over the course of like 3 months. We burned up quite a few pumps. You'll see we ended up taking a couple of pumps apart because I think even on the new Ashcroft transmission, we ended up burning up another pump. So we took the pump out, found a couple of new pump gears, put it in. We were still having issues. We had particulates that were jamming the governor up. So we'll open this pump and see if gears are busted or if those little prongs are busted. Where the little feet of the torque converter go in. There's our pump. So this one's not going to work because the little feet that allow it to catch are gone. Yeah, let's pull that one apart. This is how we're going to be able to see if we've got a good pump or a bad pump. This one has the teeth that we need. Yeah, so that... After doing the power flush, I don't even remember how many bloody times we did the power flush, we finally had not only motion, but it was shifting. Because that was our final struggle, was it wouldn't shift very well between like second and third. Finally, in the end, we were shifting through all the gears, and we only had this thing an effing year. A whole bloody... Actually, we delivered it just shy of a year. Just shy of a year, we finally delivered their Defender 90. Other things we had to deal with along the way. I mean, it wasn't a full year dealing with the transmission. We had to rebuild the 200 TDI, finding parts for that. is not easy. Unless there's some shops in the UK that we're just not aware of. Finding stuff for the 200, that took time. So yeah, a project that should have taken 3 to 6 months, nearly a bloody year. And we were ready to just kill ourselves in the end. We learned a lot. We learned the value of humbling ourselves and asking for help. It's okay to not know everything. Nobody wants to admit defeat. It's hard to admit defeat. It's not easy. But it's okay to just say, you know what? We're done. We're done doing this. And we learned that we don't want to work on any other projects other than stuff that's ours. Vehicles that belong to us, that we find, that we source, that we import, that is what we love to work on. We don't want to work on other people's crap. And that's what we did. We switched gears and started doing service and kind of got off course. Well, now in 2023, we are back on course. We're going to continue to find cool vehicles. One in particular that we sourced from near Somerset, England. We've got a really cool Discovery one, 2-door, with a V8, which makes it easier because they were legally sold here. So the saga of the multiple gearbox Defender, because that's how many it took for us to finally get the damn thing to work. And in the end it worked, and the customer was happy, and that's all that matters. So peace out. Eli, give it some more gas. It's working.
All right, kill it.